Laurence, thank you to everybody listening, and it is a real pleasure and honor for me to introduce the Undersecretary of State Manlio Di Stefano, who will talk us about the argument of today, and then I will intervene afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. First of all, let me thank the organization for inviting me to this event. Really timing, looking at the global situation about maritime routes. Let me thank CONFITARMA, the President Mattiolo, and all the people that are live here in presence or online. Most of the time, we forget that our economies are connected along routes that stretch thousands of kilometers, bridging oceans and continents. International trade has been based for so many years on affordable and reliable sea shipping. But oftentimes, we underestimate the complex interaction of politics, economy, technology, and people, the actual workers that make our objects available for us every day. Just because it looks easy to us, it doesn't mean it is easy. Even minor or local events can disrupt this balance. And in the last year, we have witnessed it so much in many ways. First the pandemic, then the Suez Canal blockage, and lastly, the abrupt increase of shipping costs that are slowing our post-pandemic recovery. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic was the first problem showing up this decade to show us how intrinsically fragile our system is. The closures and social distancing measures resulted in the most severe post-war recession in the world, with an overall collapse in GDP. Some sectors, services, and in particular transport or tourism, but also some industrial production, have been affected more than others, and some countries have suffered more than others, depending on their production structure and the characteristic of their respective economies. As you know, Italy has been one of the most severely affected countries, but as pandemic eases its burden on its economy, Italy starts running again. We are recovering better and faster than most of our partners, and we are also doing so thanks to a sector, the blue economy, which covers all business connected with the sea, and by which depends a great share of our wellness. Geography blessed this country, putting it in the center of the Mediterranean. Italy is excellently located to serve the needs of the supply chain serving both Europe and the MENA region. And the Mediterranean has a strategic value for our national economy. The volume of Italian trade with the countries of the MENA region amounts to about 60 billion euros, corresponding to 7.4% of our country's global trade, a value higher than the quota trade with the United States or China. And 71% of such trade with MENA countries transit by sea. Italy has also progressively consolidated its leadership position among EU countries in the segment of short sea shipping in the Mediterranean, with 244 million tons of goods transported, almost 40% of the total market. However, the easing of the effects of the pandemic will not mean a return to square one. The economic crisis generated by the pandemic and its effects on transport infrastructures will require a review of the global supply chains and their possible adaptation to a regional scale which, as far as we are concerned, could bring back to Europe and the Mediterranean some of the production that had been lost due to the effect of globalization. This will further promote regional trade and the development of short sea shipping by increasing the role of integration, accelerator of the sea and the blue economy in the Mediterranean region. And enterprises will need to adapt to. From the just-in-time paradigm, they will have to shift to the just-in-case approach, adopting precautions to increase resilience to external shocks. Beyond the intra-Mediterranean trade, Italy rests on the ideal route for the flows of goods that connect in Suez and Gibraltar. The central through which the canal through which 12% of world international trade transits revealed its strategic value also in the context of the pandemic. Despite the difficult situation of the international economy, the number of ships crossing the Suez Canal in the first half of 2021 in comparison with the pre-pandemic figures. The episode of the ever-given mega container ship stranded in the Suez Canal in March 2021 highlighted the fragility of a deeply interconnected world. The shifting paralysis for almost a week clearly showed the vulnerability of the dynamics of international trade and the weaknesses of global supply chains, while at the same time highlighting the importance of the Suez as a strategic hub for the flows of goods from the Far East to the destinations in Europe. Despite these potentials, however, Italy represents a transit route for trade flows from China to Europe only for a limited share of 3%, compared with 23 of Germany, 59 of Greece, and 49 of the Netherlands. The third European economy in absolute terms of GDP, second in terms of export volumes as well as manufacturing production behind only Germany, Italy boasts a ratio between the length of the coast and the surface of the country 4 times higher than Germany. But until now, we have not been able to exploit these assets in terms of development potentials. Logistics costs, which are 11% higher for Italian logistic companies than the European average. A logistical infrastructure gap estimated at around 70 billion euros, of which 30 are due to bureaucratic obstacles and digital delays, burden the competitiveness of Italy's port and transport infrastructure. We need to act quickly as the hierarchies of international trade routes are showing changes due to the search for modes of transport that are able to guarantee less expensive and faster routes for carriers. The route around the Cape of Good Hope, which is undertaken in times of low oil prices, or even the Arctic Sea routes, which is increasingly exploited in parallel with the effect of climate change, had the potential to replace a significant part of the international lines of communication. All these changes mean that in the coming years we will need to gear up for large-scale challenges concentrated in investments for the modernization of maritime infrastructures, taking advantage of them to make our ports greener, to decarbonize maritime transports and develop intermodality. At the heart of these challenges remains the issue of sustainable growth, which combines economic development, job and income creation, environmental protection and policies to combat climate change and preserve our planet's ecosystem. An effort that involves international cooperation for the development of joint policies. Our goal is a zero-emission economic system respectful of biodiversity. This will involve infrastructures, modernization through technological innovation in the maritime transport sector, the acceleration of the digital revolution in integrated logistics systems, as well as scientific and technological research on the sea and its ecosystem. At the same time, we will need to commit for a revision of our models of social behavior, encouraging sustainable consumption, especially in the fishing and tourism sectors, and the creation of skills in maritime professions adapted to the current needs of safeguarding the environment. In Italy, we will boost our ports' competitiveness with special economic zones and the simplified logistics zones. Bureaucratic simplification, a welcoming economic legislation, and fiscal and financial incentives will be able to attract productive investments, contributing to the development of local economies in a logic of greater integration between industry and logistics. In this context, we must be aware that while maritime traffic increases and specializes, the efficiency of North African ports grows, making them candidates to become fundamental elements of the Euro-Mediterranean logistics network. The struggle for competitiveness goes through cooperation, not conflict, and we must not miss this opportunity. We need to create a logistics and port network, making our ports the leading actors of the next Euro-Mediterranean supply chain network, but by betting on the ports of southern Italy, which can now seize the opportunity provided by the post-pandemic recovery and the resources of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. To conclude, we collectively need to bring blue into green for a modern, source, efficient and competitive economy that preserves our seas and our planet. At the same time, we have to be ready for the unexpected, as we are invited to by the titles of this year's edition of Festival della Diplomazia. It is not a challenge to be conducted individually, but together, shoulder to shoulder, with all our partners in the Mediterranean and in the world. I thank you for your attention.